Good evening, everybody. It is 9:45 on the East Coast, 6:45 on the West Coast. It's once again the second attempt to do your Calamity Jane live stream for the evening. I thought we had our technical issues solved, but we did not have our technical issues solved. But this time it was on my side. Um,
Yeah. That's
so
that's why we're partners in this,
That's right.
Eric.
That's right. Yeah. So last week, everybody, we had to cancel the stream because James's internet was working. This week we're 15 minutes late. Well, there's a dead stream that'll be disappeared probably by the time that you watch this. But we streamed for a good 15 minutes before I realized that OBS had lost detection of my microphone, and I had to reset up everything to get OBS. This is a new bug. This is something that's been happening recently in the last couple of months. And I don't know what's been causing it, but suffice it to say, there's a dead stream that I'm gonna have to delete off of the channel, and this is our new, brand new, better than ever stream that is working correctly. So
Well, anybody that knows me knows that I talk to myself quite a bit, so it would probably seem very natural to a lot of
that's
people
that's
where,
fair. That's
you
true.
know,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. So no one knew,
but
but I did. I spoiled it for everybody. Everybody knew now that I wasn't just miming words and letting you talk to yourself. Anyway,
yes, and I wasn't hearing imaginary Eric in my head. It
it's
was it
exactly
was
right.
happening.
It was,
Yeah.
yeah. As far as the internet concerned, it was happening.
Yeah. Oh, so we're already. I'm assuming, Eric, that you're seeing that I'm already screen sharing, right? Because that was a remnant of our last stream, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Mm-hmm.
okay, so I don't have to actually share my screen, quote unquote.
Nope.
I'm already working on stuff.
Everything is working great. We're moving forward. All is well in the
Okay,
universe.
and so just to recap where I started a while ago is I'm actually kind of tonight's kind of a gap filler night where I'm actually finding shots where some art assets are missing in some of these
Mm-hmm.
shots, and I'm trying to fill in the gaps a little bit. So I filled in the gap for this. If I turn off this, we can see it here where hang on, not that one. It's these layers up here. Where are you? Jeez.
Well, while you search for that, so the
Yeah.
scintillating conversation that everybody missed was we were talking about season 2 of Severance. We were
Yeah.
I was dancing around it because James has not seen the latest episode, which is absolutely bonkers. Highly recommend the show Severance in general, but you should definitely try to get caught up before you go on your trip, James, because this is a big one. And as I said before, I don't know how long the internet is going to be able to not spoil the entire episode. So,
Even though the internet spoiled our stream
well,
a couple of times now,
yeah,
but yes,
yeah.
I mean it's always trying to do something. But yeah, I hear you. I just want to I want to try to make sure to watch it. I was gonna pause it because I'm heading out of town to hang out with my folks to Utah. And then then Amit and I were gonna watch them kind of in my head. We were gonna watch, a couple episodes and kind of do a mini binge. But
Mm-hmm.
based on what you've told me, you're kind of sounding all, like the foreboding man on the bridge kind of thing, and don't cross this bridge unless you know XYZ kind of a thing, some sort of mysterious strangeness to this recent episode to where I'll need to watch it now, it seems like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess we shall see on that. Meanwhile, just to catch up on this, I was just working on this thing here, which was the Warhog running into frame. It
Okay.
was an animatic, and
Okay.
now this is what we did before in the streams. I was just filling in the gaps like this. It took
Mm-hmm.
me forever to actually kind of get to this point, but to explain it, that is. But anyway, so that's what I'm doing tonight. Is I'll be filling in gaps on art stuff. But back to Severance. One thing that
Yeah.
I was talking about, and I was doing it solo, but now we can talk about it one more time is the intro and how much I
Mm-hmm.
love
Yes.
season two's intro versus season one's intro.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course I don't mind talking about it again because I was pretty much fanboying and raving about how well it was done
It's
in my
Yeah, it's a very very interesting piece of animation. Very high quality.
mhm.
The art style I think is really cool, and there's a ton of little Easter eggs in there. And as I silently stated before, I think that the this latest episode reveals at least one of those.
So okay, so there's so that tells me that there's still remaining Easter eggs that you're wondering about now that you're kind of trying to put together, and you might have an idea or not from this last episode.
No, there's still a lot going on to
Okay,
figure out. And there is like one suspicion is confirmed and a few other things happen, but it is the craziest episode of the series so far.
okay. Um, is there a statute of limitations on season one? Do you think, or can we talk about season one?
I think we can talk about season one. It came out like 2.5, 3 years
I
ago.
know, I know. I just always worry about somebody who's not. Yeah. Well, so in season one, we established that his his wife is deceased, but obviously she's not deceased.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's a lot of questions. I'm just gonna kind of throw ideas at you because I haven't
Okay.
seen this recent episode. That won't spoil it, but I think his wife is kind of in on everything and just didn't want to be married anymore, kind of a thing. And this
That's
is
a
her way
dark
of doing it.
that's a
I
dark
mean, it is
approach.
dark, but
Okay.
the
All
whole
right.
show is dark in a way,
That's
right? There's
true.
this weird kind of, there's a weird kind of foreboding. There's humor in it, but it is again such a brilliant
Well,
written show. But there's also darkness in it too.
yeah.
With the gray outlook on life, corporate culture, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what your thoughts are.
So
Now you might already have information, you just don't want to say it, but
no, 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 no. I don't
okay,
have anything I can. But so are you saying that you think that she was in cahoots with Lumen and they helped her fake
yeah,
her death? Okay, okay.
yes, because the other explanation they can say is, I mean, because Mark, I'm assuming, was at the funeral, saw his wife's body, everything like that. They probably either implanted that memory into his head, because they can obviously implant
Mm-hmm.
an innie in his head. Um, so maybe he's just being strung along and he's unraveling it on his own, and they don't want him to
Mm-hmm.
unravel it, but it's too late. The rabbit hole's already kind of been started. He's not going the other way. He's going to keep digging. Um, that's just one thought.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
I still don't have a. There is obviously some sort of a larger uh game that's being
Conspiracy
played by
thing. Yeah.
Lumen, but I'm sort of reserving judgment right now. I'm not trying to identify uh what is going on yet. I'm still sort of enjoying the mystery and just
Hmm.
being in that space, and I haven't drawn any conclusions yet. I've heard a few other theories, one of them involving that she's actually a clone and that this
Mm,
whole thing is that they're working on cloning Kier and bringing him back to life. And macro data refinement is a part of that, like sort of rebuilding his memories almost, or and so like the last we saw her in season one, she was heading back down to the research department in that elevator,
hmm.
um, which lends credence to the theory that perhaps she is actually a clone.
Hmm.
It doesn't explain why she was chosen to be a clone, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, I thought that was an interesting theory that this whole thing is about this kind of cult of Kier trying to reincarnate their spiritual leader, and everything that's been going on
Hmm.
has something to do with that. And the severed aspect of it is is to keep things quiet, right? So they can have people
Yeah.
work on it, but make it so that there's leaks cannot possibly get out, right?
So this is a theory that you read online somewhere, you said?
No, a friend of mine. This is a theory that a friend of mine has.
Oh, okay.
Um,
That's a pretty cool theory, actually,
yeah.
because, and again, we're just using season one's breadcrumbs, but they did run into a room that has lambs, and that's always associated with cloning because of Dolly, whatever that sheep is that they did. Like, so I can kind of see that. I think that's pretty astute.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can get behind that as an explanation. That'd be fun.
So we'll see.
Um,
We'll see. Yeah.
yeah, but again, what my only concern with the show, and it hasn't been justified at all, but I just don't want them to pull a Lost where
Yeah.
I don't want them to. I actually want a resolution to what's happening.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. That's my biggest fear too.
Yeah.
is that they're opening all these mystery boxes without really knowing what's inside. And,
Hmm.
yeah, I totally agree with you. I could not agree more. That is my biggest fear for the show, is
Hmm.
that, like, as each episode is released, it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is so intriguing. This is so interesting. But if
Yeah.
they don't know what the mystery is and they're just, making it up as they go along, um, and it ends up kind of being as dividing as Lost was, then it kind of taints the
Yeah.
whole show. I mean, we saw
Yeah.
this in Lost, right? Like the very divisive last season made people feel almost betrayed by the rest of the show because they had invested so much time in this mystery and
Yep.
then were very deeply unsatisfied with what the mystery was, and there were all these loose threads that never got resolved. And because the answer was is that J.J. Abrams or whoever, Carlton Cuse or Damon Lindelof, whoever
Yeah.
wrote it, um,
Didn't have an answer.
didn't have an answer, right? And the writers were
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I'm just not going to worry about that one." And it was a big enough deal that they actually went back on I think the Blu-ray collection and did a bunch of digital, like, well, maybe it was even before that, NBC or ABC rather. I can't remember if it was on the Blu-ray or on the internet, but ABC went back and shot a bunch of shorts, digital shorts
Hmm.
that explained certain things, like who was delivering the supply boxes to the island, where did the polar bear come from, and why.
Man.
But it's just like, well, these are things that you probably should have addressed in the show rather than in these like 5 minute shorts that took place after the series had wrapped up, right? It's just sort of like they were like, okay, that's fun, I like that, but they all sort of felt like retcons too.
Now I can't remember. Like I think we've talked about Lost a little bit. So for me, when I watched first episode, I just had this feeling like, yeah, this show is not going to go anywhere, and I'm not going to commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
And people were raving about it the first 2 or 3 seasons, and I was kind of experiencing the FOMO a little bit. But I by the end of the show, when they wrapped it up, I was happy that I didn't waste my time watching it. So I just happened. I don't know why I had nerves of steel to not watch that show, but I'm happy I didn't in that
Mm-hmm.
regard. But I thought you were one that was kind of counter to
Yeah, I
the
like the
rest of the
ending.
people. You actually liked the ending, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the ending. I like the idea of what the island actually was, and I like the idea of it being somewhat of a metaphor of a purgatory space.
Hmm.
And I like the idea that these people were connected on a level beyond our plane of existence, right?
Uh-huh.
There was a lot of really interesting ideas that I enjoyed. I
Hmm.
do agree with the larger fandom that it was frustrating that so many storylines were sort of dropped over the years, just because they didn't really know what to do with them and just sort of moved
Hmm.
on to other things. And sometimes it was extenuating circumstances, like Michelle Rodriguez. They fired her from the show because people hated her so much. Um, and so there was like an entire storyline that got rewritten because she was just written out of the show, right?
Was she a
Um,
villain in the show or something, or like
not
why did they hate her?
No, she just was. I, I, I couldn't even tell you. I never really had that much of a problem with her. I didn't really care for her character. She wasn't my favorite character, but I
Hmm.
didn't hate her to the degree that the fandom seemed to hate her. But they ended up writing her out of the show for a couple of reasons. I think there was some strife on set as well. I don't think it was just fan outcry.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I do agree that there was an awful lot that didn't get answered that should have gotten answered. And it is a little bit frustrating that some of those answers came in these things that happened sort of after the fact. But ultimately, I did like the ending. I did feel like it came to a conclusion, and it didn't feel completely unearned.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's my 2 cents at least. I have friends who say that the last episode ruined the entire series for them, and I think that's a little histrionic, um, but I did enjoy it. Was it the best ending to a show ever? No, no, it wasn't. I'll give you that. Was it better than the last episode of the X Files? Yeah. um, both times around. Was it better than Seinfeld? Yeah, I think so. Although in hindsight, I know I understand what Larry David was attempting to do, but he kind of perfected it and pulled it off in the last episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. But nonetheless,
Hmm.
Seinfeld was
Hmm.
not a great ending in my opinion.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of really terrible endings to shows. On the good side of things, like The Good Place has maybe one of my favorite endings of all time.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good ending. Yeah.
and New Girl had a really strong ending. If you know anything about the show, it ultimately ends with the whole gang playing one last round of True American, and they think they're being kicked out of the apartment, and it turns out it was just Winston doing a. And it doesn't make any sense if you don't watch the show, but Winston always considers himself like a prank master, but he's the worst prank master ever
Okay.
because he either goes too small or way too big, and he went way too big on this one. And it was just, I thought it was great. I thought the ending of New Girl was phenomenal. Um, so it varies. Some shows do it right, some shows do it wrong, and Lost I thought was right in the middle. It could have been better, it
Hmm.
could have been way worse.
Hmm.
So
I'm
that's my
trying to
two
think. Like
cents.
there's plenty. There's plenty of shows that don't do it right. Like Battlestar Galactica. I was angry at that show. We've gone over this
Oh
before. I
yeah,
can't
yeah, yeah,
remember.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, there's plenty of good ones too. Um, A Good Place was great.
Star Trek: The Next
I didn't.
Generation was phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, what a great ending. That show had a great ending. I didn't mind Seinfeld's ending. I thought it was exactly what I expected it to be. It's just an ending about nothing kind of a thing. Like they just kind of hung out and just did
Well, there was too many.
nothing, right?
There's too many clips. It was just a clip show. That was the
Oh,
issue.
was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I
I can't.
love
It's
the
been so long. I mean, it wasn't memorable by any
yeah.
stretch. I just remember just not being as angry about it. I'm not sure how people received it.
They
If you,
hated it.
if I'm muted, am I muted now?
Oh, they hated it. It was
Oh,
like just universally hated.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean the premise was great. Like their bad behavior, their absolute narcissism finally catches up to them, and they're put on trial, and their past comes back to
Oh, yeah.
haunt them, and then they wind
Yeah.
up in jail. I mean, like that premise is great. Like I thought that was hysterical.
Yeah.
Um, um, uh, but the fact that it got intermixed with a bunch of clips from episodes that we've seen, it was just like I don't want to watch old stuff. I want to watch this in the new stuff, right?
Mm.
Um, and I think there's this interview with Larry David because he kind of goes back and revisits that same idea in the last episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, but I think he's really successful at it this time around.
Hmm.
And there's an interview talking about what he was trying to accomplish in the last episode of Seinfeld and the lessons he learned from that and how he applied them to the last episodes of Curb. And it's a pretty interesting interview.
Yeah. It's funny. I haven't actually finished Curb yet. Great show, but
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't got around to finishing it. You know what it was? It feels like it was kind of scattered a little bit. Like you never had a rhythm with it. Like it would be like 4 or 5 seasons, then a long break, and then all of a sudden there was one season, then like another long break. I don't know. That's how I remember it. I mean, I could
Mm.
be wrong on that, but it feels so. I never kind of got back into practice of watching it. And then by the time I try to catch up and rewatch old episodes, some of the some of the topical nature and some of the stuff in the show felt like it was kind of dated a little bit. I don't know what it was. Um, but it doesn't have the same timeless didn't have the timelessness to me in a few episodes where yeah, I just couldn't get into it as much.
That's possible. I tried rewatching Seinfeld not too long ago and couldn't
Yeah,
do it.
same thing.
Yeah, it was just like this is really archaic now. It's
Yeah.
just like it's not. Yeah, so I haven't gone back and rewatched Curb Your Enthusiasm, so I might feel the same way about Curb.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, I did. Tried to rewatch Seinfeld and really was struggling to get through it. Like
Yeah.
there were a few moments here and there, and the classic episodes are still classic, but there's a lot of episodes now that are like, oh, that doesn't play very well anymore.
Yeah. 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 So yeah, that's how I felt about it too. Like I guess it's time. I mean, even for the 90s, even though it feels somewhat recent, but that's pretty much 35 years ago now at
Yeah,
this point.
35 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So things have changed. The popular, just perceptions changed about a lot of things. So it's just interesting.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. but what this is what makes Severance so good. Now that we go back to Severance, though, is I think the way the show is written and the way it's composed, it could have the potential to be a timeless kind of a show. Like even the set design for the show doesn't really, it places you in a time when you have cell phones. But yet, if you look in the parking lot, for example, I love this detail. You look in the parking lot, and all the cars are from the 80s and like
Mm-hmm.
late 80s, maybe early 90s. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
You never see like any representative of a 2010 Prius or something like that, or a Tesla or something like that. It's all old 80s cars, but yet here they are with cell phones and all this technology. I just love that how they kind of use little hints of real world stuff, but they've made sure to time capsule it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is very. I agree. Intentionally time capsuled. I think that that's a
Yeah,
really good word.
yeah.
Um, and it is it is it's a kind of another one of those mystery boxes. Like, are we in some sort of an alternate reality, or is this our reality? But it's sort of like a village. Remember the movie The Village, where it was
Hmm.
actually real contemporary times, but these rich people bought a forest and decided to live like it was puritanical times.
Yeah.
Is this Lumen property, is it just a big giant swath of private land, and all these people are kind of caught in the thrall of Lumen, or you know so it's curious. I mean, you can leave, as we saw briefly when Miss Cobell is leaving the town, and she drives into into these very flat plains, and then
Hmm.
decides at the last minute to turn around. So we know that they're not trapped there
Yeah.
physically,
Yeah.
right? But what is this space? And yeah, and that kind of those anachronisms of the really new cell phone technology and things of that nature, combined with the old cars and the ancient technology in Lumen itself, and all of that crazy stuff.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. But so far so good. I will take I will take you up on your warning. I will heed your warning and we will watch it.
okay, all right.
Yeah. So let's see. In our stream, we're talking about conspiracy of Severance, but did we get to that in this version, or did we talk about that the previous in our cutoff stream?
We
Yeah.
did. The 50 minutes that we talked in the first attempt was about Severance.
Okay. Yeah. So I think we were. So wait. So okay. So the theory that you read about from your friend, we already
Hmm.
discussed that. We're done with that.
We did. We've discussed that. That was on this stream.
Okay. Now I'm trying to think. What else do we need to go over with Severance that was going
I
on?
think I think we covered everything from the failed attempt stream.
All right. Well, one more thing here. But I
Yeah,
will add,
I'm
I
ready
know we
for
didn't
it.
know about this, but Milchek, to me, he's become a much more fascinating character in season two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I am like he was great in season one as well, but they did a little bit of layering with him so far that I've seen, and I've completely enjoyed him. Minor spoiler, you get to see him in the outside world, so that's what
Mm-hmm.
the layers add to it. But
Oh,
he's a character too.
yeah. Oh, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You gotta watch episode 4, man. You gotta watch episode 4.
Okay. All right. Uh,
Um, but yeah, and this is a whole other conversation, but I will. We can put a pin in it for next time. I don't remember. Did we talk about Clarkson's farm at all?
Clarkson's farm. What is Clarkson's farm? No, I
Okay.
don't think
The
we did.
answer I think is no then. So do you know the show Top Gear or Grand Tour?
Oh, yeah, yeah. We talked about this off stream. I think we
Oh, we
talked
did
about
talk
it.
about it off stream.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely a topic that's worthy of the stream, because it is a great show. It is really awesome. I
Yeah.
cannot say enough good things about this show on
Are you
multiple levels.
are you finished with it? Did they already do a couple seasons and now they're done with it,
They've
or
they've done several seasons. I don't know offhand how many. At least 3, but I think it might be. I think maybe as much as 5.
Mhm.
Um, and it's basically just Jeremy Clarkson learning how to be a farmer, but his dry, sardonic wit is permeated throughout.
Yeah.
So it's quite good, and the cast of characters, these just real people who just are absolute cards.
Hmm.
Um, they really make the show sing, right? Without them, I don't think the show would be as good as it is. But it is, and the thing that's so great about it is it's not only is it really funny, it's very educational too. you know, like I don't know anything about farming, right? With when the apocalypse comes, I'll be the first one who's dead because I don't know how to survive. Um, so watching this and just seeing how our food is actually made, or I guess Great Britain's food, but it's probably not too different than the United
Yeah.
States.
Yeah.
Um, is absolutely eye opening. I just find it infinitely fascinating learning about how farming works, and it's just made even more interesting because it's done with all of this humor and character building, and it's edited, of course, and it's not.
Yeah.
It is it is entertainment, right? So while it is very much documentary esque, it is still an entertainment show. But despite that, I mean, all of the farming stuff seems real. Like I don't find that they're really editing that. They might be editing it for drama, but the actual process of farming, I don't know why you would edit that to not be what it is, right? So it's just really, really interesting, and just from a topic standpoint, it's just fascinating to watch. Made only the better by Jeremy Clarkson, and the cast of people that he surrounded himself with.
So what's interesting about Top Gear is how those three guys all kind of played off each other a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Is this
Mm-hmm.
really Jeremy Clarkson's show and he's just the main, or there are actually other partners in the show where they actually get equal billing time?
No, he definitely is the star of the show. It is definitely his show, but like the main sort of his biggest supporting character, I guess you could say, is he's one of the farmers who used to help manage the farm before he
Mhm.
decided to do the show and take the farm over.
Okay.
His name is Caleb Cooper, and he is an actual farmer, and he is absolutely hysterical. Just constantly makes fun of Jeremy Clarkson, calls him an idiot, makes just. But he's also this amazing farmer who is just does all of this stuff naturally. And watching his he's like 23 years old, and Jeremy Clarkson's in his late 50s, and
Hmm.
to watch this kid do these highly technical, incredibly complex scientific things, because like farming is a science.
Yeah.
um and like just making fun of Jeremy Clarkson, who is just fumbling along the way. It's comedy gold. It's absolute comedy gold. And Caleb
Hmm.
himself just a hilarious character. He's obsessed with like changing his hairstyles all the time. Um, he's like never traveled outside of his small hometown, and so it's
Hmm.
it's really funny to listen to him talk about that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, just a really remarkable, entertaining show. So we can dive into that more when we're not like 90% of the way through the stream. But highly recommend everybody watch that.
All right. Well, that's good to know. And that's on Hulu, right?
Amazon.
Amazon. Okay. All right. Um, Actually, I think for tonight, I think we're in a pretty good spot anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of a helter skelter, like for me, the stream animation wise is helter skelter. But I mean, just for us having fun with just technology anyway, it was helter skelter. So I think it was perfect. I mean, it was perfect for us to react to it the way we did. I will say, let me just recap what I did
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah.
Um, this was an animatic. Now we've got a rough animation in there. This has been added with a new pose for her to say freeze, and we added some Mitchell stuff as well.
All
So
right, all right.
while we're talking and stuff like that, I was kind of jumping around and just filling in gaps,
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but I think
Excellent.
we're in a good spot.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, we'll wrap it up there for tonight then. For anybody who hopped back onto the stream after our aborted first attempt, thanks for coming back. Why don't you head on over to calamityjane.rocks? That'll take you to our Patreon site. Please consider becoming a subscriber and helping us make this cartoon a reality. You can also find us on YouTube and Facebook, which presumably you have since you're watching the stream right now. And we'll also post all of our stuff to Instagram, and sometimes we'll do fun stuff over there as well. So Yeah, stay tuned to more stuff. I think we'll be back next week, barring any more technical obstacles.
And if not, we are well versed in dealing with them, at least
Uh,
on your side.
yes, we're experts now on this. All right. Well, that we'll wrap it up there. We'll be back next week at the same Calamity time, same Calamity channel. Good night, everybody, and stay safe out there.